Hey, good morning. Well, yesterday we talked a little bit about home HVAC filter maintenance, meaning the filters in your air conditioning and furnace systems in your home. Just a quick addendum to that, if you were in the renter crowd and after our little talk you went to check your furnace and discovered there was no filter there, don't you doubt yourself. There is supposed to be a filter there. Do not conclude that because you didn't find one, it doesn't need to be there. Do not conclude that the previous tenant of your building was smarter than you, because they weren't. The addendum to that addendum is your landlord should be extremely distressed by that, because it takes at least a MERV 5 filter just to protect his infrastructure investment. Anyway, that was a bit of Alice in Wonderland. That's not what I wanted to add today. What I want to add today is, now that we've broached the subject of HVAC and we have a good understanding how it directly can relate to our lung and respiratory health, it seems to me we're going to become far more HVAC aware when we're outside of our home. And I'm thinking of public spaces and arenas and places like that, malls. You know, the places where we go, where there's large crowds of people. You know, are they maintaining their systems? Well, two things. To start with, in a big commercial venue, I can guarantee you that the current filter maintenance strategy is to run a MERV 5 or MERV 7 to protect the equipment. So it's not going to be talking about MERV 12, MERV 13 filtration like we talked about yesterday. And if you're talking about a big space like BC Place or Rogers Arena, it's probably not going to be a real important part. Their challenge is a little bit different than ours is in the home. There, what you would see is a massive amount of air exchange. They would be bringing in a lot of outside air, and they would be extracting a lot of inside air. And then that becomes how you keep the particle count low in a large environment like that. I expect that with bylaws that will be coming in the post-plague era, that some of those establishments will be expected by code to upgrade, you know, their own filtration equipment. There will be exceptions, you know, operators that are just going to do the right thing. But for the most part, this is all business decision, and people won't be able to make that move until there's regulation that says everybody they compete with has to make that move. That's how the marketplace keeps an even playing field. But it's not that important as long as they are maintaining their equipment well, and it's a fairly modern building. As you're looking at older venues, old downtown theaters, you need to question, you know, was the place modernized? You should be able to tell. You should be able to see whether the HVAC systems have ever been modernized. You're not going to be allowed to go inspect any of these facilities, but you can use your common sense, right? We can all use our common sense. So if we walk into a public venue and the lobby's a pigsty and half the lights are burnt out in the hallways and half the urinals don't work in the bathrooms, you kind of know. You don't need anybody to tell you. You don't need me. You don't need an advisor. You don't need a second opinion. You know right here what the maintenance philosophy of that venue is. And now, in this post-plague era, where their maintenance philosophy could very well affect your long-term survival, maybe that's not a venue that you like anymore. The same thing then becomes true for it's a lot tougher thing when you're a struggling artist, but you're a struggling new song and dance act, but the venue that's offering you work, you know, could very well mean that you don't ever get to work again. If the COVID takes your singing voice, your career ends before it starts. It's a hard decision as a struggling artist, but maybe those artists are going to have to make those decisions as well. Between the patrons choosing to vote with their respiratory health and the acts choosing to vote with their respiratory health, then with or without regulation, those venues will eventually come up to the post-plague era requirements for HVAC. Now, I don't want to get all bogged down. There's myriads of details to all of this discussion. I just want to point out that Part of our post-plague planning, part of our planned recovery for all of us as individuals needs to be the awareness of HVAC. This is very important as we head into winter. Our opportunities to be outside become less. And buildings that currently are standing with all their windows open become buildings that are standing with all their windows closed. We become more dependent on the HVAC equipment as winter arrives. And you can Google a lot of this stuff online fairly easily. The health of the air, not just in our home like I talked about yesterday, but in a lot of these public venues, becomes something that we have to take the onus on ourselves to protect ourselves. And I don't really want to lecture people forever on this, but respiratory awareness includes HVAC awareness, and it goes beyond just your own home, and it also involves choosing to vote with your feet. Right? You're not over the barrel here. Most of the types of public venues we're talking about, they're optional to your life. They're not a roof over your head. They're not groceries in your fridge. You can choose not to go. And sometimes you just might have to. And that's sad, but it's not in our nature to just give up. It's after the plague, it's planned recovery. We have to move on. We can't just give up, and we can't stand still. Just saying. Thanks for watching.